to Deluxe. We check out those unique people and brands that have made the shift from punk to premiere. From the queen of British fashion to Celebrity Inc., from singers to catwalk punk, we peruse cutting edge. Dame Vivienne Westwood, the woman who personifies the journey from punk to premiere, chose an unusual collaboration when she made movie star sex symbol Pamela Anderson the feature of her latest Paris show. Then again, Vivienne loves breaking all the rules.
A friend of mine said to me, why don't you ask Pamela to do your next production, your next campaign? So I did know her a little bit, and we just asked her, that was it, yeah. Because Pamela sees herself as art at the moment, because all the artists want to work with her. So she must see my fashion as something rather exciting as well, I don't know.
Arguably Britain's most famous designer, and certainly one of the most outrageous, Vivienne began her fashion career with her then boyfriend Malcolm McLaren when they opened a shop in London in 1971. Vivienne's bold designs began to gain wide attention when they were worn by the Sex Pistols, the controversial punk band managed by Malcolm McLaren. Vivienne herself was quickly noticed around the neighbourhood, as she remembers in an interview in a recent retrospective show held in Italy.
I don't know, we just had this idea to take things from sadomasochism, from the underworld, and put them for every day. I don't know, rubberware for the office, that was our idea, I don't know. Anyway, and yes, I used to stop the traffic when I used to walk down the street in rubber negligees and fishnet tights, because everybody else was dressed like hippies and it looked really good.
Her boutique was originally called Sex, and Vivienne still owns the same shop on King's Road. The shop is now named World's End. The retrospective offers a glimpse of how radically her designs have shifted throughout her 35-year career, from safety pins and pirates to the Baroque and Victorian-inspired ball gowns adored by many Hollywood stars. Vivienne remains committed to upsetting ideas about what clothes should be, and she also remains fiercely political and outspoken about consumerism. In her latest show, she suggests people should respond to the current economic climate by mixing and matching.
It's also got this do-it-yourself of styling your own clothes, wearing things back to front and doing your shirt buttons all wrong, and mixing summer and winter and evening and day wear. Just don't buy so much, but choose well and do it yourself.
In 2008, Vivienne presented her Cultural Manifesto, a document called Active Resistance to Propaganda, in the London Transport Museum. The document is designed to provoke debate on the state of Western culture, and Vivienne claims the wording came to her as she designed some of her slogan T-shirts.
I liked them so much that I started to put them into my fashion shows, and slowly, over a period of about 4 or 5 seasons, I developed all the ideas through these graphics, and this is how I performed the manifesto. I put it all into a little story in the end. And I thought I have to put it all together as a manifesto, and that's what I did. It came through my work in fashion.
As always, Vivienne does not shy away from being provocative. She claims that the very consumers who have made her a wealthy woman are morally bankrupt.
It makes the claim that culture is the antidote to propaganda, that we're all trained up to be consumers, and propaganda, the 3 constituents of it are organised lying, nationalism and non-stop distraction, and the most effectively dangerous is non-stop distraction. If your mind is being filled with rubbish, you can't think. And so essentially it's about discrimination rather than blanket consumption. And it's like we're not machines, we're much more spiritual. Anyway, it really is about get a life.
At London Fashion Week 2009, Vivienne showed once again she is the queen of couture when she launched her Red Label collection. This time, the naughty schoolgirls of St Trinian's were the designer's inspiration. Vivian also mentioned that her 11-year-old granddaughter Cora Correa was her muse. The rich brick colour of the school was one inspiration for the palette of the collection. Vivian herself was pleased with the final results.
What I find so great about doing a fashion show is that the whole is better than the sum of the parts. They do take on a life, you know, when you're lucky and it works. And you do an awful lot of it in the air, you see. It's in your own head, most of it, to start with. And when you see it happening, it changes sometimes, but it's always better, not worse.
Whatever the inspiration, the crowds poured in, and many were clearly excited about seeing what the controversial designer had in store for them.
She's so style-orientated. It's not about following seasons and, you know, current trends. She just is who she is, and she's the great dame of British fashion.
Vivian continues to work hands-on as a designer. She has also forged some fascinating collaborations, including one with the famous knitwear label Walford, hats for Golden Label and Man, and in 2003, the Wedgwood Pottery Company released a series of tea sets featuring her designs. One of her wedding gowns was also the central gown in the 2008 film Sex in the City, although Vivian herself walked out on the London premiere, claiming the clothing worn by the girls was frumpy and boring. Certainly the public at this show were not disappointed in the creativity and invention evident on the catwalk.
It's anarchic, it's anti-establishment, it's different, it sticks two fingers in the air to everything else, and it's kind of political.
The performers who have been influenced by punk rock are too many to mention, but Avril Lavigne recently punked up Shanghai with her first ever Chinese concert. Wild Child Avril herself debates whether she is a punk, but her fusion of rock and punk has hit a chord with many fans who waited a long time for her third album.
Yeah, basically it has been about 3 or 3.5 years since my last record came out, and I've, I don't know, I hadn't taken a break ever since my first record came out. Like, I hadn't even taken a month off, like maybe 2 weeks at the most. So with all the traveling and stuff, I just wanted to kind of take a break and live my life for a bit, and just worked on a couple movies, got married, and then I went into the studio, and, you know, because I write my songs, it takes much longer for me to work on my album. And then I took my time with the album. I didn't want to rush it out. I wanted to make sure that it was really good. That was important for me.
In 2006, Canadian Business Magazine listed Avril as the 7th most powerful Canadian in Hollywood at 22 years old. Her debut album called Let Go sold almost 17 million copies, and her second and third albums reached #1 in the United States. A recent protest in Malaysia is clear evidence that her success has not seen her tone down her punk rock sensibilities.
Part is me getting to play my music in the world, getting to hear it, and me having this wonderful opportunity to be able to travel, and you have fans worldwide. I have huge international success, which is unbelievable. You know, me being a girl from Canada, and it's like all over South America and all over Asia and all over Europe, everyone knows me, and I have a huge following, and that's pretty amazing. It's a very special thing.
Coming up, the gothic star who is venturing into film, and punk fashion revisited. American goth superstar Marilyn Manson has never been accused of being a shrinking violet. Goth is a dark offshoot of punk music, and Marilyn has translated the traditional punk desire for anarchy and rebellion into millions of dollars in record sales. But he refuses to limit his creativity to the music world. Born Brian Hugh Warner, Marilyn took his name partly from the screen actress Marilyn Monroe and partly from the murderer Charles Manson. Here, the American singer, actor and poet steps into the world of fine art at the opening of his own art gallery in Los Angeles. His painting is just as dark and complicated as his music, and not for all tastes, but Marilyn is happy to let his work remain outside the mainstream.
Because I never really intended to try and sell my paintings, so when I've actually had a difficulty parting with them. You know, oftentimes when you have other, corporations involved with record companies and things like that, they really often hold you back from doing what you like to do.
The gallery is called the Celebritarian Corporation Gallery of Fine Art, and prices for Marilyn's pictures range from $8,000 to $35,000 US. His equally famous wife of the time, burlesque artist Dita Von Teese, was clearly inspiration for some of the less obscure creations. Marilyn also intends to curate shows from other artists. Not keen to confine himself to art and music, Marilyn has branched out into film directing. Having previously appeared in small roles in many films, in 2006 he decided to write and direct his own film about the tortured English writer Lewis Carroll. Lewis was the author of childhood fantasy favourite Alice in Wonderland, and by many accounts he was an unhappy man who never married. Marilyn states that he was attracted to the author because of parallels with his own life. Marilyn himself is slated to play Lewis Carroll, and model Lily Cole is to play Alice, the young girl whom Lewis based Alice in Wonderland on.
It was the story that everyone had missed. The creation of Lewis Carroll is far darker and more interesting in a lot of ways than the creation of Alice in Wonderland.
Phantasmagoria, The Visions of Lewis Carroll, is a horror film, and Marilyn is keen to upset expectations about what a horror film is.
Letting the audience's imagination fill in a lot of the blanks always makes it more terrifying. So it's a lot like this, a lot like his writing, Everybody reads it and gets something different out of it.
Rising star Lily Cole was persuaded to work on the film because of the unusual approach that Marilyn is taking.
The arty, kind of intellectual approach to horror, as opposed to just trying to just cheap horror, I guess, or commercial horror.
Marilyn's favourite designer brought his unique punk-flavoured vision to the catwalk in London in 2008, when he presented a fantasy collection based on The Wizard of Oz. Gareth Pugh began work as a costume designer for the English National Youth Theatre when he was only 14 years old, and his designs remain theatrical and dramatic. His first solo premiere was in London's Fall 2006 Fashion Week, and his strange creations attracted instant critical praise. Anna Wintour, the highly influential editor-in-chief of American Vogue, is one of his most powerful supporters, and his designs are now worn by such high-profile figures as Kylie Minogue. In this show, his Dorothy from Oz is a little more threatening than the usual girlish character.
Well, it's very abstract, the reference. Basically, I don't know, it's kind of like as if Dorothy went back to Oz and kind of killed all the monkeys and the Wicked Witch, and she's like kind of, I don't know, it was Dorothy versus Predator, basically, in a nutshell. So it was kind of Dorothy as kind of a very statuesque, warrior-esque kind of barbarian.
Gareth's inventiveness and technical genius can be glimpsed in the boxy sculptural shapes that feature on many of the garments.
Applique thing that we did in the collection we've done before, but we've never been able to actually play around with it's the shape of the applique that dictates the pattern of the garment, so it's like there's no kind of, it's not like an arm pattern, it's made out of triangles, so it's kind of quite a mathematical like nightmare trying to work out the pattern for the arm or a jacket, but kind of like, once you get it, it's nice, but yeah, I've always wanted to play around with that, and we had a chance this time.
The young British designer is clearly one to keep an eye on, and he is one of a number of designers who continue to bring the punk ethos into high-end premiere fashion. The night show in the Berlin Fashion Show in the same year featured some premiere punk-inspired labels. Agent Provocateur is a cultish lingerie label run by Vivienne Westwood's son, Joseph Corey, and his wife, Serena Rees. Joseph was famously awarded the MBE for services to fashion in 2007, but he rejected the honour due to British involvement in Iraq. Agent Provocateur inspiration ranges from bondage to fantasy wear, and the label also produced its own perfume in 2006. When Kylie Minogue wore Agent Provocateur in one of her more risque music videos, the label went through the roof in popularity. Other famous women who lay claim to wearing the sexy brand include Nicole Kidman, Paris Hilton, and Kate Moss. Ed Hardy is an American-based label based on the tattoo designs of renowned American tattoo artist Don Ed Hardy. Don had published a number of books celebrating old-style tattoos, work that he had learnt from years in the trade, and working alongside such tattoo luminaries as sailor Jerry Collins. Originally, the artist was approached by an American label who wanted to use his designs for T-shirts. Then in 2004, Christian Audigier, the French designer and entrepreneur behind the label Von Dutch, bought the rights to Don's tattoo work to use for the high-end Ed Hardy label. Christian has been using the marketing techniques he used so successfully for Von Dutch by marketing directly to celebrities and opening stores in high-profile fashion districts. So far, fans of the tattoo-laden creations include Madonna, Marilyn Manson, and the singer Shakira. Heidi Klum has also sported the underwear. The Grammys are a fashion spotter's dream, and many celebrities take the opportunity to showcase their favourite designer. The irreverent French designer Jean-Paul Gaultier has drawn on many punk influences in his haute couture work, and actress Terry Hatcher wore one of his striking designs to the Grammys in 2006 when she was asked to present.
Well, it's just the biggest music award show ever, and it's my first one. I've never been before. They asked me to present, and I was honored to be here, and I'm going to sit in the audience and enjoy it like I would normally be watching it on television at home, so I'm very excited.
Terry was unabashed about the revealing nature of her stunning outfit.
I think it's much more cutting edge, and that's why I'm allowing everyone to see my underwear.
Coming up, tattoos move into the mainstream, and one of fashion's bad boys. Until recently, to have a tattoo was to declare your working class, outlaw, punk, or criminal status. Now even beautiful young middle-class girls have them, and no one is ashamed to show off their ink. The immense popularity of tattoos has meant many of our most famous and desirable celebrities have been under the needle, which only increases the cachet of tattoos. For a lot of enthusiasts, the high-profile work seen on the red carpet is often not very interesting. Leading London tattoo artist Sparks suggests celebrities may not be tattoo trendsetters.
I think a lot of the time celebrities don't have very many original ideas, strangely enough. I think that obviously like the whole sort of rap culture and American kind of Chicano, black gang, street culture tattooing has been a massive influence on stuff. Everybody has script now, or Old English writing, that whole sort of, you know, sort of Tupac, thug life kind of stuff. And a lot of the religious stuff, you've got your praying hands and your rosary beads and your only God can judge me kind of tattoos.
Tattoos used to signify something about their owner, that he or she moved in dangerous kinds of circles. But now with every Tom, Dick and Harriet getting one, that specialness is reduced.
Dolce, you know what I'm saying? I got my crazy joints on. I got a lot of Dolce, Gucci, different things like that. My jeweler, hit me up, you know what I'm saying? And some tats, you know. You always got to wear some tats. They permanent though, so not really a designer.
Angelina Jolie has helped make tattoos for women very acceptable, although she has had one very public change of heart when she had her ex-husband Billy Bob Thornton's name removed. Angelina is not the only high-profile beauty to be bitten more than once by the tattoo bug.
When I got my first tattoo, I swore that would be the last one, but I pretty much got four others in the year after that. But now I have 7 tattoos, and I think I'm done now because I'm getting bored of them.
Fans not only copy the tattoo of their favourite star, they can also get tattoos which connect them perhaps more intimately to the celebrity they feel speaks for them.
Recently I was at an award show and this girl started screaming and crying, and I don't see that much, people like crying and that kind of thing. But she lifted up her wrist, and I was kind of leaving. I didn't really, they were pulling me away. And I went and I caught her wrist. She had tattooed my album title. She had, she had my first one, which was Speak, and then she had the symbol of Ra, the Chinese symbol, which I had on the cover of my album, which was really kind of cool.
Is that a tattoo?
Yeah, it says Breathe.
That's awesome.
High-profile footballer David Beckham recently unveiled a new tattoo dedicated to his wife, which reads, "Forever by your side," written down his left forearm. His body is a veritable map of tattoos.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of tattoos, and I had a big input with the design of the cross on the back. So yeah, it's a lot of my taste and my own likings.
The difference between a celebrity having a tattoo and a young man or woman is something that should not be underestimated. And some tattoo artists are wary of the current trend for very visible ink.
You know, the public look to newspapers, to media, to TV, to the football pitch, to wherever for their influences in fashion trends and, you know, haircuts and all the rest of it. When Beckham had a Mohican, so did everybody else, and etc. And it's the same with tattoos, I think. And I think the dangerous thing with celebrities is, you know, if Beckham had a spider's web tattoo on his face, it wouldn't matter. The guy's worth 200 million quid. It's not going to affect his life in any great way. I think one of the things that we have to be careful of here is you get a lot of kids walking in, obviously, the whole like gangster rap thing. People want their hands and their necks done and stuff. And it's like, if we get an 18-year-old kid coming in and he's got no tattoos and he wants a tattoo on his neck, you kind of, it's not your job to lecture him, but just as a responsible human being, you're like, if you really thought about this, you got another 50 years of trying to get a job looking like this.
Irreverent designer Marc Jacobs worked punk influences into his most recent work, with strong fluorescent colours and explosions of fabric and unusual uses of zippers reminiscent of early anarchic punk fashion. Punk rock fashion famously included zippers that went nowhere and connected nothing. Marc is interested in zippers changing the shape and volume of his designs.
Zippers, again, was a ways to, I mean, these were all devices that we decided to use to engage, to reduce volume or to enlarge volume. So, you know, it's an opening. So when something opens, it grows, and when you bring it in, it closes and gets tighter. So zipper is the perfect invention for that.
The result was a fascinating fusion of class and street culture.
It really was. You know, as I was watching, I was thinking, you know, if Sheena E., Grace Jones, and Jackie O were one person and they were doing a shoot for Playboy, that's who that would be. That was that woman.
T-shirts for sale in Marc Jacobs' recently opened flagship store in Hong Kong certainly reflect the punk ethos of homemade and experimentation. Designing a T-shirt is great fun. I stay at home and it takes me about 3 days to produce 12 pieces. I use various materials like colourful plastic stripes or fabrics and buttons that I collect. I just have to sew them on the T-shirt. So I think that's quite an interesting job. I mean, the do-it-yourself aspect of it. Marc has brought his more affordable range to the city where many are just discovering punk. But in his bright designs and colours, his patrons can glimpse the circular route of fashion, which traces right back to the outrageous punk strutting London streets more than 30 years ago. In the world of premier fashion and culture, everything old is always new.